got me, I got freeze, it's on me. I can't breathe, I can't see, I just bleed, I just bleed. I can't stay straight, I can't be straight. I just wanna love my own. I can't live hate, I just won't hate. I just wanna love my own.
This guy is really pushing hard now. This is going to be an incredible time at Spa-Francorchamps. A 1:43.726 from Michael Schumacher, a full half second faster than Kimi Raikkonen.
Michael Schumacher on pole for the first time at his favourite circuit this afternoon. He is chasing another record. Spa-Francorchamps. It's a 4-mile roller coaster ride, a wonderful racetrack, high-speed drama, a staple diet at the Belgian Grand Prix. Hello there, good afternoon. Round 14, F1 2002 equals race day at Spa, and the tension's going to build over the next hour. You always get a real weather cocktail around here at the moment. It's cloudy, it's cool, temperature around about 15 degrees. There is a little threat of rain as well. Michael Schumacher trying to become the first driver to win 10 Grand Prix in a single season. Absolutely delighted. Eddie Jordan joining us alongside Tony Jardine. Now, Eddie, we will talk in a moment after Louise Goodman's report on how Jordan joined forces with Ford next season.
Clark hurtled past the flag, the triumphant end of a great race by a great driver in a great new car. No wonder there was jubilation in the Ford camp.
Ford is the most successful engine manufacturer in the history of Formula One. Jim Clark's win at Zandvoort in 1967 was the first of 148 victories, culminating in Johnny Herbert's memorable triumph at the Nürburgring in 1999. It was to be the last hurrah before the Ford name disappeared from the sport to make way for the company's prestige Jaguar brand. 2 weeks ago in Hungary, Eddie Jordan announced that the famous Blue Oval is set to return.
Today we're very, very happy, very proud that Jordan and Ford and Cosworth will be working together for the next 3 years or so.
Unlike the Honda power plants which have powered Jordan's cars since the start of last year, the Ford engines don't come for free. But Eddie won't have to reach into his pockets to find the £15 million a season that the deal is worth. Part of the cost will be offset by a commercial agreement, whereby Jordan's sponsor Deutsche Post purchases trucks and vans from Ford Europe. The move to Ford will pit Jordan head-to-head against the Works Jaguar team, but that's a challenge which the Irishman is more than ready to meet.
What's going on there, Eddie? Trying to get a few quid out of your Japanese pal there?
I couldn't dare tell you what was going on. But the people, I have to say just one thing put aside for Honda, that they were fabulously sporting. They had a year left to run in our contract, and when I told them that I had this opportunity with Ford for 3 years, they agreed that they would allow us to leave early. And in all this time when people have difficulties in sport, this was a very major sporting gesture, and I have to say publicly thank you to them.
It's a bit of a mystery to some people, Eddie, that you announced the deal in Budapest, but even this morning Ford are saying we're not saying anything about it. Why is that?
Well, rightly so. You should ask them that. We had permission. It happened at the very last moment, I must say. On the Saturday evening, just prior to the race in Hungary, both contracts arrived, duly signed, and we needed permission to firstly go to Honda as a matter of etiquette, I suppose, to go and tell them what was happening. That did happen. They were therefore obliged and had sent out a press release, so it needed to be attended to from the Jordan side. But there was nobody there either from Ford or Cosworth to make a similar announcement, and therefore they'll handle their announcement in time. And Jordan, of course, requested permission to announce that the deal with Ford was done at Hungary, and that was granted, so we released our position then.
Big boost for you, this deal?
I would say this is when you start off in racing, and just as Louise said there previously, the history and the fact that Cosworth are, 6-7 miles down the road, the fact is it is almost like one family again. I'm absolutely excited. I think that it is a great future, a great boost at this time when sport is going through a difficult time, to have a 3-year contract with a name such like Ford.
Let's talk about this racetrack. It's a very special racetrack for you, isn't it? And in the rain in 1998, well, I don't think Ralph was that happy, Ralph Schumacher, about letting Damon win this one for you, was he?
I think his brother Michael was a bit even more unhappy. But Ralph could understand it because he was a teammate. We'd spoken to him all the way through the race. But Michael was somewhat concerned that he felt that we deprived his brother of a position. I think that's a bit ironic in view of what's happening in recent years. But, you know, Ralph was very good about it, and he still is a great chap, and I've great faith. He took that absolutely brilliantly.
First win for you, that champagne tasted great, didn't it?
Not much of it around since then, a couple of in France and in Monza, but it's long overdue. Let's hope the start and the news that has just been said about Jordan and Ford can give us that kick-start that we need again.
You've got Giancarlo Fisichella racing for you this afternoon, and in '97 he had an excellent race round here for you, didn't he?
Well, this was his very first year, and again he was with Ralph at that time. It was a great team, two absolute novices, but they kept running into each other. And look where both of them have arrived now, and they're probably, both of them are in the top 5 of the world drivers. Less even, you could say that they're probably Michael and those two are the top 3. And point of opinion, of course, but it's nice to see young guys coming through, and I think Jordan has always been very strong in that area.
He's got a terrific reputation in the paddock, Giancarlo Fisichella, and everybody rates him very highly indeed. But he made an unusual mistake in qualifying, a driving error, and that's really cost him dear, made his job very hard in the race this afternoon.
Well, one thing for sure is you can see that the car just oversteered. The car here, it's really difficult to get a proper balance because there are so many. It's an undulating circuit. It goes from very high speed to low, tight corners, and to get a perfect balance is next to impossible. So I think what happened, this is a corner where when it tightens up on you and the back just goes, it's very difficult to catch it. He made a small mistake and he paid a big penalty for it.
Just looking ahead to next season and your driver lineup, are you under any pressure to get a German driver in your car because of your German sponsors?
I don't know who's asking you your questions here, but obviously they're fairly well clued in. I mean,
it could even be me, Eddie, you never know.
I know you're far too nice to do that to me. Probably him on the right here. But trying to answer the question as much as I can, we do have a current contract with both our drivers for next year. And I don't see any reason to change that. I see Taku is coming on. He's made obviously a lot of mistakes at the beginning part of the season. But having just said that, of course, he had a little bump this morning, which was uncharacteristic, but nevertheless did happen. And it brings us back to reality. Yes, we still have to keep watching him and bringing him on and making sure that but he will get there. He has got the natural talent, which is so important.
It's always a very special racing day when we come to Spa, isn't it? We always get all sorts of incidents around here, and it must make the hair rise on the back of your neck as well as anybody.
Well, right now we could probably be doing rain dances, as you can imagine. Where we qualified wasn't particularly encouraging, and yet both drivers are outstanding in wet conditions. It also has turned out to be quite a good tyre race because you can see that the Michelins have an advantage which hasn't been seen for some time. Bridgestone, who we're with, definitely had the advantage. And so there's a nice little tyre war there. So let's see what happens. My forecast is that some of the cars in front of us will be suffering from a blister problem where they probably qualified with tyres that are too soft. So that'll be interesting from you. If you see certain cars moving back, you'll know what to look for. But I don't think that'll be a problem for us. It's just we're too far back to make a real dent onto the podium, which is traditionally a place we've always been here.
Well, we'll be watching the yellow Jordans very closely indeed, Eddie. Thanks for joining us. Well, then, Eddie yet to finalise his lineup for next season. Elsewhere, though, those teams are taking shape. All change at Toyota.
Toyota have decided to dump both their drivers after their first year in F1. Alan McNish insists he'll be racing something in 2003, but Mika Salo has announced he's to retire at the end of the season. In comes Olivier Panis and one of a few possibles, including Minardi's Anthony Davidson. Jenson Button's the new face at British American Racing, but the identity of his teammate is still to be officially confirmed. It's expected Jacques Villeneuve will stay with the team that he helped create 4 years ago. At Sauber, it's Auf Wiedersehen Felipe Massa, and hello and welcome back Heinz-Harald Frentzen to form an all-German-speaking team for 2003. Eddie Jordan insists that he's keeping hold of his star driver Giancarlo Fisichella and his current teammate Takuma Sato for next year. But rumours persist that Eddie Irvine will have some kind of role, which would please Jordan's British-based sponsors. But who goes where is probably the last thing on Enrique Bonoldi's mind. He's contracted to Arrows, who are in the middle of sorting out their future. They came to Belgium with news of a buyer for the team, but nothing was sorted out in time for them to race, and they left the circuit on Friday night. The cars have now not turned a wheel in anger since the German Grand Prix over a month ago.
Mark Lundell has joined us. Welcome, Mark. Just listening to that report there, I mean, Olivier Panis, he's going to be 36 tomorrow. Do you detect a trend where experience is more important than youth now?
Just giggling there, Jim, because I'm 36. I don't feel that old. But no, I think what's happening at the moment is the teams are, going through this cycle again. It's all fashionable, isn't it? 1 minute it's the young guys, next minute it's going back to the older guys. But it's being dictated by the fact that there's so much commercial element there in terms of finances, the rewards by the end of a race. Teams can't afford to have young drivers making mistakes. They need the experience now to make sure they get to the end. Points mean prizes.
And yet, in contrast, that Alan McNish shown the door at Toyota. Are you surprised by that?
I'm a little bit upset with the whole situation there for Alan. Obviously, he's put a year in with testing. He's missed a year of racing. He's now come in and done a year of racing nearly. It's nearly complete, but he hasn't got anything to show for it. So, in some ways, it's not very nice at all of Toyota, but I'm sure they will look after him. I'm sure they will take him stateside or put him in a sports car program. He'll be okay.
OK, thank you, Tony. Let's look back at qualifying. And Michael Schumacher never on pole here, but never any doubt he was going to be there today.
Well, he said he only realised it coming up to this weekend that he'd never had pole. Yeah, and he's always said to us he's not interested in history or statistics. But he went round the paddock and he told a lot of drivers, I'm really going to be going for it. Some of you might not even make it in the 107% qualifying rule. But he did put the hammer down, did very, very well indeed. He was just affected slightly on one of the runs. Yellow flags came out for Fisichella's incident.
Kimi Raikkonen was the only fella that pushed him close, and there's some debate about Kimi Raikkonen. Is he very, very brave, or is he daft as a brush?
He's young.
You better join him.
Yeah. No, I mean, you can see the situation here. He's on a qualifying lap. He's coming through our rouge. He's fully committed. Cloud of smoke. What do? You back off? Do you go through it? Kimi opts to go through it. He comes out the other side complete with 4 wheels. Everything looks fine. He could have gone the other way. He could have come out with no wheels on his car, could have hit something, and everybody would have been against that move. But he's focused, he's young, he made the commitment, heroic move. Some will question it.
Fantastic, and finishing second on the grid. Only the brave need apply. That's what Martin Brundle said about racing around this place. And, well, no question about Michael Schumacher's bravery, and he improved his pole time towards the end, Tony.
But he said that the car was nearly a perfect setup. It was so good. And he also talked about how important this first pole position had been to him in the history of his results here. He loves this track, he loves this 2002 Ferrari, and he revelled in it around Spa.
Nearly half a second quicker than the rest. Just take us through the grid.
Well, he did win from 16th on the grid in 1995. Schumacher will be looking to win from his first ever pole hit. Raikkonen, his best ever on the grid, but he's got to make his best ever start. Barrichello in 3rd place had problems in the morning. He was affected in the afternoon. Ralf Schumacher, problems getting the tyres up to temperature. And Montoya, big problems with the balance. And then Raikkonen slowed him down, he said. Coulthard, 6th there. He's on different tyres to Kimi Raikkonen. Truly great qualifying again in 7th place. And Irvine, best this year for Jaguar, helped by Michelin, he said. Salo used the Toyota engine to good effect on this power circuit. Button, too much downforce, and he took some of it off. De La Rosa, he locked up going into La Source and aborted 1 lap. Villeneuve said Pedro had spun in front of him, kept him out of the top 10. McNish, tyre pressure problems. Fisichella had to take the spare, and he lost confidence in that. Panis, 2 engine blow-ups in 2 days. He's not liking having Sato alongside him. They tangled in France off the line. And then Massa and Heidfeld, 17th and 18th, explaining the loss of form for Sauber. They can't do that. Webber was pleased with only doing a few laps. He was only 3.5 seconds off pole. Very good job from Anthony Davidson. He was just 6/10 behind his illustrious Aussie teammate. Just 20 start. Arrows have officially withdrawn from the Belgian Grand Prix.
Michael, being on pole position for the Belgian Grand Prix is a bit of a novelty for you. So, how are you feeling about it?
Yeah, certainly delighted. I mean, it's a shame it has taken so long.
We'll do our best to try to fight for the victory, but I don't know how the tires will work throughout the race and what will be the weather in here. But we'll do best and we'll see where we end up.
Altogether, I think I could have gone faster and maybe been second, but there's no ifs this season. I'm happy where I am right now and looking forward for tomorrow.
To race against Ferrari was difficult in the past, so it will be difficult tomorrow. Even McLaren has been better in races than we were usually, or quicker sometimes, so it's going to be a difficult and tough race. Only the weather could make it even more difficult.
for me, I opted to go for a different tyre to, in the belief that it might give me a better race performance. So, you would compromise a little bit in qualifying performance, but I still hope that we might be able to get in front of a Williams, but didn't manage it. So we'll see if we can come forward in the race.
Well, that was a bit better, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think we got a reasonably good lap, and Michelin gave us a good tyre advantage for one lap, so it moved us ahead of the rubbish we're normally involved in.
Certainly didn't drive any rubbish when he was with Ferrari, and now we're going to talk to one of his bosses at that team, the British engineer, an absolutely key component in the all-conquering Ferrari squad. Contracted to the end of 2004, but thinking way beyond that.
Ferrari celebrate their 12th Constructors' Championship, a record unequalled in Formula One's history. But this is a team whose will to win is spurred on by their memories of defeat. It's powerful motivation for the future.
The fact that we struggled for a few years before we achieved what we're achieving today means that everybody remembers what it was like then. And so the success we're having is not taken for granted. It's really enjoyed. And people appreciate the success and realise what they've had to do to achieve it. We do have to be very careful that we don't get complacent about our current performance and let it slip.
It wasn't always this way. Just 6 years ago, Ferrari's car design was in disarray, the product of split efforts.
They got John Barnard to design a car in England. And there were valid reasons, I guess, at the time to do that, but it's not the right way to do it. I mean, to have a design department in England and a race department in Italy, and it's not the ideal solution. But during '97 we were able to develop John's car, and we had a go at the championship with it. But it was really the design group. There was no fundamental design group. It was all in England. It all worked privately for John. John was leaving the organisation, and Rory and I had to put together a group of designers, and that's 40 or 50 people, and difficult to find.
Since then, Ferrari have endeavoured to keep their F1 expertise in Italy, bringing young engineers up through their system, from factory floor to test team to race team. They've also invested in youth.
What we have at the moment is a student support scheme. We're working quite closely with a number of Italian universities. Interesting, a couple of English universities as well, because there's some interesting expertise in England, particularly with aerodynamics, and so we're working closely with a couple of English universities. And for instance, the students who do that course for us, part of the course is they have to learn Italian. So if someone does a PhD with us in England, say at Imperial College, or we've got one at Cambridge which is starting, they have to learn Italian as part of their course, because if they do succeed and we find them an exceptional student, we want them to come and work at Ferrari. So, and I think they relish the challenge, so it's a nice thing for them to do.
So we've spoken about Ferrari's future. What about Ross Brawn's future?
I'm very happy. I mean, it's a super period. So it's hard to imagine that personally I would want to do what I'm doing now for another team, because the people are nice, the facilities are nice, we have tremendous support all around the world, and that does matter. There will be a period where Ferrari will go through a bit of a transition in terms of its key members of staff. Michael will stop one day, and it might be nice to see it through that period. It might be a nice challenge to take Ferrari through that period and see if we can win a championship with another driver, and see if we can do things with different people. It will be a new challenge, and one that could be good fun.
Ross Brawn, a red through and through, and Tony there speaking for the first time and saying he wants to be around after Schumacher goes.
It's this Italian dynasty. Continuity has been the key there. But the other thing that I think it's easy to forget is when Ross Brawn and Todd and Rory Byrne arrived there, the place was in total disarray. And you can't forget Nigel Stepney, the English mechanic, chief mechanic, went over there amongst all these Italians and tried to get some order into the place. And that's what they eventually did and built into what you see now.
Mind you, Mark, one or two of the other teams would quite like to see Ferrari in disarray again, wouldn't they?
They would, yeah. They would like to see them in disarray. They'd like to get some results for themselves and see Ferrari having problems. But don't forget, it was only a few years ago that Ferrari were in disarray.
Yeah.
But the crew around them now is fantastic.
Rock solid.
Yeah.
Rock solid. Okay, race starting in half an hour. Be sure to email us your thoughts on the Belgian Grand Prix via the ITV F1 website. We'll respond after the race. Coming up, though, Murray Walker's thoughts on the deciding Grand Prix in F1 2002. And we will drive Spa with David Coulthard, winner here in '99, posting a much improved package today. Now, the majority of the drivers say this is their favourite circuit. We've seen a collection of hair-raising incidents.
I like the sound of fucking music. Fucking music turns me on.
Can he do it? Yes, he's done it. A brilliant move there.
Fucking music turns me on.
Oh, God! Michael Schumacher hits David Coulthard and is out. Look at him, look at him. He's going to have it out with David Coulthard. Fielder, look at Fielder, and into the wall. Who was that?
Coulthard in the wall.
David Coulthard into the wall will stop the race.
They'll have to red flag this.
Terrible. Look, this is quite appalling. This is the worst start for a Grand Prix that I have ever seen in the whole of my life.
You're back with us at cool, overcast Spa-Francorchamps. I think that's a warm drink there. Around 90,000 fans here for the Belgian Grand Prix. Now, F1 Supremo Bernie Eccleston assures us the future of this event is secure, despite grumbles from the government about tobacco advertising. Time now to hear from Murray Walker. Murray's been joining us throughout the season. He files today's report from London's Bluebird Cafe, surrounded by images of Donald Campbell, another man obsessed with speed.
Hello again. There have been 4 races since I spoke to you last, and Ferrari brilliantly won them all. But I've been impressed with several things other than Ferrari and Michael Schumacher. First of all, the phenomenal Kimi Raikkonen, whose Formula One progress has been quite outstanding. As fellow Finn Mika Häkkinen bowed out of McLaren, the unemotional and monosyllabic Raikkonen took his place. Like Mika, he's an interviewer's nightmare, but also like Häkkinen, he's clearly a potential superstar. His wheel-to-wheel battles with Williams' hardman Montoya in Germany and Hungary, his near victory in France, and his calm ability to outdrive Michael Schumacher there for 14 laps until he hit an oil patch, demonstrated an iron will and a very special talent way beyond his years. If I was David Coulthard, I'd be very worried. I've been enormously impressed too with the way Eddie Jordan has coped with and seemingly overcome adversity. Giancarlo Fisichella's done a great job in a car that wasn't the best. Now, there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that Eddie Jordan came off best in swapping Fisichella for Jarno Trulli. And now that he's done that amazing deal with Ford to use Cosworth power for the next 3 years, things are looking up. Looking up for Jordan, maybe, but looking down for Jaguar? I know all too well how long it takes to get a Formula One team up to speed, but it does horribly look as though parent company Ford are getting impatient with Jaguar's lack of results. Given the time he needs, I'm sure Jaguar racing boss Niki Lauda can get it right, and I just hope he'll be allowed to. Jaguar and racing go together. Now, speaking personally, I'm mighty relieved that Jenson Button's fixed for the future. I was worried that when he got the elbow at Renault, his Formula One career would be over. Jenson is star quality, and I'm convinced he can go right to the top. So thank heavens BAR boss David Richards thinks so too. I firmly believe BAR's going places, and it's great to know that Jenson's going with them. And didn't fellow Brit Anthony Davidson do well on his Hungarian debut for Minardi? I was really impressed with his calm and cheerful demeanour, by the way he got stuck in, and by his speed and all-round competence. He's a very worthy British candidate for a Formula One contract next year, and a man to watch. Good luck at Spa, Anthony. Now, changing the subject, I have to say that I'm surprised and disappointed that Michelin haven't been able to break Bridgestone's tyre supremacy. 1 win for Williams and 1 for McLaren must be a major disappointment for Michelin, and like all Ferrari's rivals, they'll have to try much harder next year. And now the good news. There's 4 cracking venues coming up to close the season. Spa, the finest circuit in the world, the historic and charismatic Monza in Italy, the spectacle of Indianapolis in America, and the unique figure-of-8 circuit at Suzuka in Japan, which the drivers all love. There's lots of action still to come and points to be won. So keep the faith.
Indeed we will. Thank you very much indeed, Murray. We'll hear from Anthony Davidson before the off. Michelin, by the way, getting it right this weekend. 8 runners in the top 10 for the Belgian Grand Prix. To race commentators James and Martin now, and like Murray, they are hugely impressed by Kimi Raikkonen.
Well, Jim, Spa-Francorchamps certainly a track on which the stars always shine, and yesterday in qualifying, Kimi Raikkonen certainly showed his mettle, keeping his foot flat on the throttle, 185 miles an hour into that wall of smoke at Eau Rouge. I did a bit of a straw poll in the paddock yesterday after qualifying. 50% of the people think he's a hero and 50% think he's completely nuts. Where do you stand?
Well, it was brave but silly in many respects. There's no sector or lap ever worth losing your legs for all your life, and diving into a cloud of smoke like that is crazy. But it just shows you his mentality, and he's certainly on it, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. My own view is it is nuts, but it was absolutely fantastic as well. Looking forward to a strong race from him today. He's been outstanding since Magny-Cours, hasn't he? And he's really got himself onto Michael Schumacher's radar now. Schumacher is really aware of him, isn't he?
Without doubt, Michael Schumacher's gone for the softer tyre, blistered on Friday. He's going to have to drive the race quite carefully. Raikkonen too has gone for the more adventurous option from Michelin, so the pair of them are head-to-head at the front. But Raikkonen has to start on used, scrubbed Michelin, so maybe he won't be getting down to that first corner fast enough to frighten Michael.
Certainly an exciting prospect, a real buzz here at the moment.
Indeed there is. So, Tony, Kimi Raikkonen, brave or a barn pot?
He's a mad young Viking. He must have spoken to Odin before that. But in his defence, he says he spotted a little oil line, a little trickle of the oil on the track, and he went to the other side because he knew Panis was towards the right. So he said, otherwise I wouldn't have done it.
Let's talk about the Jaguars. I mean, best qualifying performance for something like over 20 races. De La Rosa this morning going very, very well in warm-up as well. 4th quickest. How come they pulled it round?
Well, they've done some work on the front suspension. It's been revised. They think they've got some torsional stiffness problems, which they've corrected. But at the same point, Jim, I have to point out that Michelin is a strong contender in qualifying at the moment. And I think that's really making a bit of a cover-up for the car. I don't think one qualifying session is going to be the end-all of Jaguar, but let's wait and see.
There's a lot of hope for them, and Eddie Irvine saying he isn't down with the rubbish this afternoon. He's up towards the sharp end.
Yeah, well, Eddie's always got a lot to say, hasn't he, on whatever the case may be. But I think, you know, the race has got to be the result here. Whether they come out of this with a strong one will be whether Jaguar's going to be around for the future, full stop.
And bearing in mind all the talk just finally, Tony, about Jaguar, how important is it for them to put a showing on in today's race?
Very, very good, because there are a lot of the hierarchy here, but we are expecting this report that Richard Parry-Jones, one of the senior Ford executives involved with, which will say to everybody in America, recommend that they carry on with their support of Jaguar. The other thing is it puts pressure on Nicky because of the fight with Eddie, and then they meet again Gary Anderson, the Jordan designer, who was sacked from Jaguar. It's all going to happen within the family.
Pressure on Nicky louder. Then let's go down to Jenson Button. He's in the top 10 at the Belgian Grand Prix, and poised to talk to him is Louise.
Jenson, I was watching you in the warm-up this morning. Your car looked like a bit of a handful. Have you managed to sort it out?
Yeah, we didn't have the best setup this morning, but no, it's looking a lot more promising now.
A lot of confidence there.
No, I mean, one lap to the grid, I mean, you shouldn't be able to feel anything, but here, because it's such a long lap, you can really get some heat into the tyres. And yeah, it seems a lot more promising. I mean, this morning we had some big problems, but we've been able to sort most of them out, I think.
Now, talking of tyres, Michelin seem to have the edge here, but you've gone for the option that prefers the warmer conditions, and hot it ain't. Is that going to be a handicap for you?
Have I?
Yes.
I don't know, really. It's really difficult to know with the tyres and the temperature what it's going to do, but I think we're on the good choice, and I think it'll help us in the race.
Time will tell. Thanks, gents. Have a good one.
Cheers.
Thank you, Louise. Actually getting a bit colder temperatures, 15 degrees at the moment, but if you feel in need of an adrenaline rush, there's one on the way. 4.3 miles in just over 1 3/4 minutes. A mega challenge, a real F1 circuit, absolutely fantastic, just wonderful. Those are the drivers' descriptions. It's the longest lap in F1.
On board with David Coulthard in the McLaren. Let's have a look at what P6 looks like on the grid for today's Grand Prix. Down to just 40 miles an hour within the city limits in first gear at La Source hairpin. Walk the car to the barrier on the left-hand side. You ride the rain gullies. The car automatically changing up to 6th gear, 180 miles an hour. just the G-forces working on the car to reduce the revs, no hint of a lift of the throttle, building now to 190 at the top of the hill for Lecombe. Stay on the left-hand side, brake desperately late, you've got the hill to help you, 85 miles an hour. Tweak the throttle a little, try to gain a few miles an hour before lifting once more from Malmedy. 105 miles an hour on the exit, up to 150 before rivage. The hairpin, chase the throttle, push the car as hard as you can, sweep to the right-hand side for the left-hander heading down the hill. Tremendous grip on the new tarmac there, but stay on the right-hand side. You're doing 180 miles an hour into Pouon. You're still doing 160 in the middle of the corner, pulling forward. Gee, your head wants to roll off your shoulders, but pay attention, the Fania chicane is ahead of you, down to just 85 miles an hour. Ride the white lines on the right, then the left. Sweep up on the curb, but get ready for the first part of Stavolo. One of the worst corners on the racetrack, the easiest place to make a mistake. No dramas, no need to lift the throttle. He's heading back to the original circuit here at Spa, building up to 190 miles an hour. The car is beautifully balanced. Blanchimont is ahead of you. Let's enjoy it. The engine screaming, you're still trying to build a few more miles an hour as you then hit the brakes for the first part of the bus stop. He mows down the bollards, rides the curbs. The final part of the bus stop is now easy flat. Over the line, the red lights are on, qualifying's over. You're on the third row of the grid.
Thanks, Martin. On the back row of the grid today is Anthony Davidson, 23-year-old from Hemel Hempstead. Made a big impression a fortnight ago in Hungary. That's Mika Salo, by the way, on his way out of F1. But Anthony Davidson completed over 60 laps on his F1 debut, and now he's on the verge of his second race in the Minardi.
I felt a bit like Anthony's permanent shadow in Hungary, so I couldn't really let this weekend pass without catching up to see how it's been going. How has it been going?
Yeah, I think it's been going pretty good. Every session I've been right up there, sort of trading times with Mark, apart from qualifying where the car's obviously a lot different to drive, and to be honest, still haven't got used to it, so yeah, it's got a long way to go, but and it's hard to sort of prove yourself in 2 races, so we'll see what I can do in the race and hopefully make it to the finish this time.
Has it been a very different weekend to Hungary? At least you know the car, you know the track. Has that made a difference?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, when I first went out there, the first couple of laps was magic. I mean, to drive Spa in a Formula 1 car is a dream come true, really, and to do it on the track that I know as well from past races I've done in Formula 3 and Formula 4 it was a big advantage for me.
I know it's your last drive with Minardi. Just very briefly, what are the chances of seeing you in a Formula 1 car again in the future?
I think at the moment the chances, yeah, they're quite good, but I haven't got anything lined up for next year. We're working on it, so after this race maybe we'll have a better idea.
Thanks, Anthony.
Thanks.
Good race this afternoon, won't do him any harm at all, and we expect to see him back in F1 next season. Alex Young will be returning in a couple of weeks, by the way, in that Minardi at Monza. Let's go grid walking with Martin.
Thanks, Jim. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the grid. Right, what do you want to know? Well, it is cloudy, but I've talked to a few team managers, and they're saying that they're not expecting rain through the duration of the race, but we have heard that one before. Today's race, in many ways, is one of numbers. 10% of the field not even on the grid, the Arrows team are missing. 15% of the runners that have made it have been fired, including this man behind me, Mika Salo, somewhat amazingly. I'm on the 4th row, and here, with its best qualifying run of the year, is the Jaguar team. And I just want to get a quick word with some of these people here. Richard Parry-Jones, head of Ford Motorsport. Richard, we had Eddie Jordan in our studio saying got a new 3-year deal with Ford, but it's remarkably quiet from Ford's point of view. What's your position on this?
Yeah, it's true. We've with our Cosworth Racing Engine division, we have reached agreement with Eddie Jordan to supply them with Ford Cosworth engines for the next 3 years. And Eddie's done a good job in the last few days of clearing up some of the details of that deal. It's not a works engine. Our works engine is right here in the Jaguar.
Well, talking about the Jaguar then, it's certainly a much stronger performance. How do you feel about this weekend, and why is it so good?
We're very encouraged by the progress that we've made this season. It's not just a breakthrough at Spa, it's been stepwise, step by step. You know, we started this season 3 seconds behind Williams, and right now we're just over a second behind them. We've clawed 2 seconds back. That's pretty amazing in the space of just 6 months. So we're very encouraged, and we look very optimistic about the direction Jaguar is headed in. It's not that way on the grid, it's that way on the grid.
And the future of Jaguar is still very much heading forward, yes?
Jaguar Formula 1 is very, very important to Ford, and Jaguar's future looks pretty good based on this race's performance and our qualifying performance.
Thank you very much. That's enough Jaguar for one day, boys. I'll see you next time. And Oh, here's the little man, Bernie. I want to have a quick word with him because Bernie, got a few million of my mates here. They want to know, is this the last time we're going to be here at the Belgian Grand Prix?
Who knows? It's in the lap of the gods. I don't smoke, so I mean, work it out for yourself.
All right, so you're not too bothered about the anti-cigarette advertising stuff and all that?
Well, I'm not a smoker. You're not a smoker, are you?
No, not to my knowledge.
So maybe we won't be able to be here.
Yeah, so that would be amazing. I mean, we'll be heartbroken if we can't come here to race.
No, I know. Well, we're fighting, I tell you, to try and make sure we're still here. Yeah. We really are. I know you are with me, and we're doing our best.
Yeah, well, I mean, but it's coming good that we've just been hearing about Jordan with his Ford deal. Was Eddie winging it a bit on that?
No, I think it's all done. I hope so, anyway. Yeah. I hope so.
Good stuff. All right, we'll see you later. Come and join us if you see us doing an interview. Oops, excuse me. And let me just head down there. I want to have a quick word with the guys at the front. There's Irvine. Flavio, your man got any chance today?
I don't know. Look not.
Why? Well, he's usually pretty mighty off the start line, so you must get in the middle of it, down in there somewhere.
Yeah, maybe a chance for at some point. Let's see.
That's the best you can expect. You got the best tyres today.
Yes, but the people in front of me are the tyre as well.
You seem a bit down. You don't seem pumped.
I tell you after the race.
Okay, good to see you again. Let's see if we can catch hold of some of these drivers. Is Coulthard on the grid? He's down here. He's got his helmet on. And now he's getting in the car. DC's on the harder tyre. And I think he's hoping it's going to pay off. He's expecting some of these guys to come towards him today. And we think that Raikkonen has probably taken a bit of a gamble on his softer tyres on the front row of the grid. Michael's been blistering tyres. He's on pole, of course. So the strategy will be 2 stops today and expect maybe some of these harder tyred cars to make their way through the pack as the race goes on. And one of those could well be the Williams. Let's see if we can find Ralf Schumacher and have a quick word with him. Ralf, is it too late? Is it too late? Just 10 seconds. And are you happy with your tyre choice? You think you've got a chance maybe coming a bit later in the race?
I guess it's going to be a very interesting race. The tyre choice we took from the Michelin side was definitely the best one for the race. It's just that we have to wait and see what the Bridgestones are doing.
Yeah, you're going to have a fiery action in front of you with Kimi and your brother.
I guess we'll have to wait and see. I mean, Kimi is known that he tries very hard as well, so maybe, 2 of the problems sort out themselves. We'll see.
Thanks for those 10 seconds. Let's head off in this direction. I don't know if Raikkonen is in the car too. Barrichello in the car. We're getting quite late on the grid here today. The action, and Barrichello is in the spare car. Preferred the handling of it. It's his choice now. Remember, Michael has given up the use of the spare car for the rest of the year to help him finish second in the World Championship. So Ruben's deciding that he is happiest in that spare car. We'll have a quick run to the front row of the grid. We're running out of time. We're running out of drivers because they're all in the car. And I think the smart move is to head back to the studio.
Well done, Martin. Great effort from down there. Well, Kimi Raikkonen, the best position of his life up there on the front row. Let's get a quick prediction from the 2 chaps in the studio. Tony Jardine, quick one.
Well, all down to the start on this. I mean, Schumacher's going to be mighty. He's going to be hard to beat today.
Mark?
I think Kimi's going to make a race of it.
So there we are, all set to go. Michael Schumacher, he's swept the board so far. Just wonder, will he become the only driver to win 10 times in one season? What about the flying Finn? Raikkonen, will he profit from that best qualifying of his career? Barrichello in the spare, as Martin's told us. Montoya, Ralf Schumacher and Coulthard. Don't forget that scrap for second place in the championship. His boss, Flavio Briatore, a bit downbeat. Jenson Button, those in the top 10. What about Anthony Davidson? He is out to beat his Australian teammate, Mark Webber. Here we are then at Spa. We are all set for another spectacular.